everybody, and welcome back at Adobe Live. What's up? I can see the chat already active. It's already a party here at Adobe Live, and in particular, we are here today for a brand new Illustrator challenge in illustration. So yes, we're going to be using Adobe Illustrator. Make sure that if you want to follow along, it's time now to open up your app so you can join me during this challenge, which is gonna explore illustration. And in particular, today we're gonna dive into the topic of pattern. Hence, I've put my favorite pattern dress to go with the actual theme of the stream. I'm a big fan of ladybug. I don't know how you say it. I think in American English is ladybug, and in British English is ladybird. Correct me in the chat because I'm usually wrong. If you don't know me, I'm your host Kladi. I'm an Italian designer based in Manchester, UK. And if you're watching from YouTube, make sure to jump into behance.net/live. That is the place where we're gonna have a party together while we learn how to use Illustrator. We sharpen our illustration skills and we learn new techniques. I can see Steve, fantastico rivederti as well. Lovely to see you. Robert, Arturo, RB, Afroya, Wade, lovely. Thank you so much for being here with you guys. So it's time to launch Illustrator, and also you can click on the link below in order to open the template that I've prepared for you. Yes, because if you want, you will be able to work along and to follow along by opening up the file that is there for you. And let me show you in particular how it looks like. So you can start with, let me go ahead and see. Here it is. If you click on the link just below the description, remember you want to head on behance.net/live, look at the description, and you will have a link that will take you right away into this fantastic page that contains the file that you can open in order to join with me. But if it's probably the end of the day for me here, is 7:30 p.m. Let me know in chat where are you watching from and what are you doing now, if it's morning, if it's afternoon. But if you just want to catch a break and use these 30 minutes to learn some new techniques and just relax, you can always have access to this file even after the stream, and also to the stream as well, because the stream is recorded and available for a replay. So feel free to simply join, relax, enjoy the community, ask your question. As I always say, this is a safe space to learn together. Adobe Live, Behance. We're here to have fun and to learn together. So today, as I say, we're going to be talking about pattern and how to create seamless pattern. We're going to start step by step by using simple shapes, then moving into something a little bit more complex, like complex illustration, and how to create a pattern with the illustration, how to make a transparent background, how to make a colorful background, and how to export it. And many of you, let me know in the chat if you ever had issues with the pattern, and if it ever happened to you that whenever you have work with a pattern and you exported a pattern, you have all those cross line, which are the line in between what are called tiles, so the little repeating pattern. So I'm going to show you how you can export it and make sure that it is seamless so you do not have this issue there. I can see Samantha from DC. I was in DC just a couple weeks ago. I was extremely lucky to participate to Creative Pro Week, a wonderful event, and also to deliver a training at the House of Representatives in DC. Super exciting time, but it's time to get started with our challenge. Yes, Becca, how to get rid of this line? Stay tuned, because I'm going to show you how to export it and getting rid of these ugly lines that split our pattern, because we're going to create seamless pattern ready to place anywhere you want. Let's get started. So as I say, I'm going to start just from the very basics here, just playing with shapes. So if you head to the layers panel, whenever I prepare a file for you, for those of you that are just starting now, I'm going to use the layers panel in order to split my content. Here in particular, I have the instructions which are locked, so you hide them if they bother you, if you don't want to see what is going on in there. I'll just give you some little indication of what the artboard are for, but you can hide them so they get out of the way. Then in the work in progress, that's where we're going to place our shapes and our illustration that we're going to play with, and then you can add into the final layer, which is the layer that will contain our final pattern. So this is the structure. If you want to add more layers absolutely up to you. All you have to do is to click at the bottom of the layers panel in order to add a layer. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this because we don't want it, and I'm just going to make sure to select my work in progress little folder here. And then I'm going to head into the Shapes panel. So from the toolbar, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Rectangle tool in order to activate the Rectangle tool. And I'm going to go ahead and click and drag to create a square. Then I'm going to go ahead and click and hold on it in order to reveal more shapes. And I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag in order to select an ellipse. You can also access the ellipse by using the letter V. Let me zoom out so we can actually see what I'm doing here. Pressing the letter L on your keyboard that will allow you to access right away into the ellipse. So here we have two shapes. Maybe we can also add a little star, just like so. Perfect. And all we're left to do now is to just give it some color, fill whatever you want. Now I'm just going to go ahead and play, as I say, just for the sake of time, I'm just going to assign different fills to these our little shapes. So I'm going to use just blue, red, and yellow. Here we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I select, oops, looks like our square is still white. I'm going to go ahead and select all of our shape and head to the stroke and fill control at the bottom of the bar and of the toolbar, and then I'm going to click on the stroke and set it to none. You can simply use the shortcut / to also automatically set your either fill or stroke to none. That is the shortcut. And actually, since we're here, let me give you some quick shortcut for our fill and stroke. So if you use the letter the letter X on your keyboard, you can see here that you swap between the control of the fill and the stroke just above my head there. That's the letter X. Then if you use Shift X, you swap the content, so the color of the fill between the fill and stroke. So you see that the red goes from the stroke to the fill. If you want to head back to the default white fill with a black stroke, all you have to do is to press the letter D. I'm going to press Command Z to undo. And if you want to make either the fill or the stroke, as I was saying before, transparent, simply click the / and it automatically be transparent. Here we go. So we learned from some shortcuts as well. Perfect. Now that I have my shapes here, all I'm left to do is to go ahead and head into a square artboard. To access the artboard tool and make sure that our artboard is a square, and also to learn the dimension of our artboard, I'm going to go ahead and press the shortcut Shift O. Now this is the shortcut to access the artboard tool, which is also located at the bottom of the toolbar. Here it is. It looks like a little square with a two little sign at the top. Here it is there, and allow us to select artboard. You will see that an artboard is selected when you have these dotted or almost marching ends, white and blue around an artboard. To select an artboard, all you have to do is to click on it, and you will see that now we have the selection on this artboard. And then you have two different ways to access its properties. Of course, you can always head on the properties panel, and here we can see with the width and the height that this particular artboard that we have selected is 300 pixels by 300 pixels. But you can also press the return or enter key, depending if you're working on a Mac or Windows, in order to access the artboard options. Perfect. So here we know also that our artboard is 300 by 300 pixel, nice and clear. Now it's very important to understand what is the size of your artboard. So make sure that you check it out, because we're going to take a note of this 300 by 300, and then we're going to have to use it in just a second. And I'm also going to name the artboard pattern 1. Oops, forgot the N there. And once you're done, you can simply click on OK, and we're ready to go to create our pattern. Let's press the letter V to access our selection tool, and we can go ahead and select our square, rectangle, square, star, and circle. Hold the Option key or Alt key if you're working on a Windows. Click and drag across to make a copy while we move, and we have this object selected. So now we can go ahead and zoom in our pattern number 1, and we can start to experiment with these simple shapes. Perfect. Let's see if there is any question in the chat. It looks like we're just saying hi. We have Sweden in the house. That's fantastic. Let me know where you are watching from. I'm always very excited to learn more about our international community. Perfect. It looks like there is no more questions. Again, if you're watching from YouTube, come and join on behance.net/live. That is the place where I can read your questions. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and start by placing my little items here. So my square, and then I'm going to use the star as well, and then I'm going to use the circle. So I always start by placing items on two edges. So I either go left and top, or I'm going to go left and bottom, or I go right and bottom. So I always choose between left and right and between top and bottom. And you will see in a second why it's important to choose just two rather than start to play around in the pattern. You could also go ahead and perhaps duplicate any of these shapes and place it in the middle, but I will wait to do that just a moment because it's nice to see how the pattern comes together when we actually start to tile it. And now is the time where you want to keep your eyes peeled to see what's going on in order to create the pattern. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and select any item that is sitting on the top. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the circle just to add another little element there. I'm going to make it smaller by clicking and dragging one of the corner of its bounding box and holding the shift key to make sure that we maintain the proportion of a perfect circle. Now, the important thing is that how we do make sure that everything that is bleeding out, that is hanging out our artboard will repeat perfectly on the opposite side, because that's the idea of having this seamless pattern. Everything that has is sitting at the edge of our tile will have to show exactly perfectly in the perfect position. So in the past, you might have just, clicked, selected, and then trying to make a copy and then try to look and see what it looks like. And that is not a scientific way, professional way to operate. So let me show you how to do that. And let's start by these two first elements that are sitting on the top. Now, what I'm going to do is to right click on them and make sure that I select the transform option from the pop-up menu. From here, I'm going to go ahead and select M. Also take a note that the shortcut to access the move options is Shift Command M. That will be the Mac option, the Mac shortcut. If you're working on a laptop, on a PC laptop, it will be Shift Control M. So for the next step, we can just go ahead and simply use the shortcut. Once we click on the move option, the move panel will pop up, and look what happens here. They automatically move, and they move relatively of this position that is here noted inside the move panel. Now is moving them horizontally of -9. We do not want to move them horizontally, we want to move them vertically because they're going to have to end up on the other side of the tile. So I'm going to make sure that my horizontal move is set to 0, so they are exactly aligned in the same horizontal position. And now the vertical distance is going to have to be 300. Now 300, let's go ahead and zoom out and see where they place them. It placed them exactly at 300 pixels distance, which is the shape of the artboard, and that's why it's so important to note the shape and the size of the artboard to make sure that it sits exactly at the edge. And we're going to be precise to the pixels, so it's going to be 300 pixels vertical. Now, whenever you move downwards, and you can see that when you use the rulers, you can bring up your rulers with a Command R or Control R if you're working on a PC. Everything that is moving downward, it goes from 0 to a positive number, so 0, 1, 2, 300, 300, and so forth. If we have to move them to the top, so let's, for example, if you're actually starting from an item that is at the bottom and you want to flip it to the top, in this case, you're going to have to use -300, because when we're going to move up on the vertical line, we're going to use a negative value, and it will be the same for the axis. So for the horizontal spaces, if we move to the right is a positive number, if we move to the left is going to be a negative number. So in this case, our horizontal move is 0 pixels and our vertical move is 300 pixels, because that's the size of the artboard. Now, before you click anything, have a look in here. You want to make sure that you click on preview so you can actually see the move is taking place and is doing exactly what you want. The part that is cut out, it just reflects at the bottom. But also you want to make sure that you do not click on OK, because if you click on OK, it's just going to move them. We want to make sure that we click on copy so we have the previous part, so whatever was the original shape still there, and then we have also created a copy which also contains the move. And now all we're left to do is to click and select everything that is sitting on the left side. Again, Shift Command M was the shortcut to open up the move panel. Now the settings are sticky, so it's moving them absolutely 300 pixels underneath. That's what we don't need that. We're actually gonna have to set our vertical value to 0, so it brings it back at the same height, and we're gonna move it horizontally of 300 pixels again, because this is the size of our artboard. And as I said, if we move it on a positive with a positive number, it's gonna start with to move them to the right. If let's just to show you what I was trying to tell you before, if we use a negative number, it moves them to the left side. So again, if you're actually moving something from the right edge to the left edge, in this case, your value here inside the move panel will have to be -300. And if you're still wondering why we're using the number 300, this is the size of our little square that we use to create our tile. Now, don't forget to click on top copy instead of OK in order to create a copy. And that's why I say it is nice to leave some space in the middle. So afterwards, you can go ahead and use the actual space. So you have an idea what is the area that you're left with. And then you can go ahead and maybe create another shape. So in this case, maybe I'm going to add a rectangle there just in the middle. And then we're going to assign it another color. Let's make it maybe this other color, green or orange. I think orange looks quite nice. Fantastic. So we have now there this pattern, and this is the pattern that we're going to be using for our tile. So before we go ahead and move our object, let me show you what is the first step. So we're going to go ahead and open the Swatches panel, which like every other panel is located inside the window menu. So select window and then swatches, and from here all you're left to do, and I'm going to show you something that doesn't work first, just to show you how and why. You have to select the artwork and then you can drag it inside the Swatches panel. But now look what happens. If we now create any shape, let's go ahead and create a rectangle there, and then we apply the fill with our pattern that we've created, it doesn't look like it tiles perfectly. In fact, it's all messy. Let me go ahead and make sure that it just simply replicates it, but without making it like tiled. It just, everything is piled up and is not what we want. We want to make sure that everything tiles and folds continuously and seamlessly. So in order to create those seam and make sure that Illustrator understand what do we want, we're going to go ahead and create a bounding box that is going to bound our tile. I'm going to go ahead and press the letter M to quickly access the rectangle tool, and then I'm going to make sure that I head to the top of my artboard. Here it is. Make sure that the word intersect will appear there, and then we can click and drag in order to create a rectangle. Now that looks a little bit messy because we have the pattern fill, so I'm going to go ahead and make it black. It doesn't matter what color do you choose. Make sure though that you are actually intersecting the entire artboard. So you want to make sure here that also the square that you're creating is the same size of the artboard. So yeah, 300 by 300 again. And also we want to make sure that it's centered horizontally and vertically on top of our artboard. Very important to create the bounding box. Then we head to from a layers panel, and we are going to bring this rectangle to the very bottom. So we want to at the very bottom of our layers panel. Remember, the order of the layers panel is always important because everything that is on top will display above. But also in this case, to create a bounding, we really need to have this square behind everything. And now, as we learned at the very beginning, we're gonna make this transparent in just one click by using the / little shortcut there from your keyboard, or you can always use that little transparent non-fill from the fill control. And now that we have the rectangle, the square that is there delimiting our pattern, we can go ahead and select everything, and you will see that we do have the square there selected. And now with this new selection, which includes our bounding box, we are now bringing the pattern inside our little swatches panel. And all we're left to do is to go ahead and create another rectangle. In this case, we're going to use our little artboard, which is our test number 1 for our pattern. And all we have to do is make sure that we apply the pattern. As you can see, the pattern is there, is seamless, and is ready to go. And just to show you the difference between the two patterns, the seamless pattern and the one that was before created without the tile, here it is. It's such a big difference. The other one just simply replicates whatever you have in full, and you do not have these tiled and seamless effect like you have with the background. Now there are only a few minutes to go, and I want to show you real quick. If you want to create in this case, this is transparent, as you can see, because we do not have any background. If you want to create a background, remember that you want to duplicate the rectangle that you have at the bottom. So what I've done is select and use the shortcut Control-C to copy, Control-F to paste it on top. And you always wanted to have two rectangles because one is going to be the color that we can apply in the color, but at the very bottom we always want to maintain the transparent bounding box. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply maybe just a color that gives a little bit more contrast, just like so. And then we can go ahead and now bring this pattern over here. Let's go and have a look at our layers. We have our rectangle, but then we also have our bounding box that sit at the very bottom. Always remember to use that. So now we can go to the our rectangle or shape, and we can apply the new pattern, which also contains the pattern, our rectangle that also contains the patterns, but with the background as well. I just have a few minutes, and there are a few things that I want to show. Of course, you can use these with any shape you want. I wanted to show you a little bit more complex shapes, but really you can use it with text, you can use it with type. The principle is the same. Just make sure that you have the size of your artboard and you create a tile, and then you duplicate and move everything respectively. Now, couple things. First of all, I was just seeing that when I was resizing my rectangle before, if you are trying to resize a design and you want to make sure that your design stays scaled with your shape, that's absolutely fine. That looks like how the settings are. But what if you want to just make the shape bigger and you want to make sure that the pattern stays in the same size? So if you go ahead under window and you access the transform options, you will be able here to see that we have the opportunity to transform pattern only, or transform object only, or transform them both. So if you want transform, let's see, object only, look what happens here. So we are transforming the object, the patterns stays the same, and it doesn't shrink, it doesn't become small, it doesn't become bigger, and that's the perfect effect if you want to perhaps, you know, apply a pattern, keep it of the same size, and just make your shape bigger. Now if you want to go back, again, all you have to do is to click on the flyout menu and make sure that you select and transform them both, and in this case make sure to hold the shift key to constrain proportions. The second thing that I wanted to show you is how to avoid those horrible line that appears whenever we have an export, and then the tile, the little square, the transparent square that we have used in order to lock our pattern is gonna display, and we really don't want that. So let me show you the best and most professional way to export your pattern so you can avoid these issues. All you have to do is to head to your file options, and from there we can select export, and we're gonna go to our save for web, our legacy. Also very easy shortcut, Shift Alt Command, all the keys S. So that's Shift Alt Command on a Windows. Sorry, Shift option is basically just press all the buttons and then the S key. Here it is. We have the option Shift Command S on a Mac. There will be of course the Control Alt Shift S on a Windows. I can believe that I actually managed to say all of them. Otherwise, just simply go to File, Export, and then Legacy Export there. What you want to see here, what you want to make sure that you select is this art optimized. So usually set to none. You want to set it to typography, especially when you have very tiny type that you're exporting. But in this case, what you want to select is art optimized. By choosing the art optimizing anti-aliasing, all the edges of your artboard will not be visible. So whenever you go ahead and you export your art, and I saw many professionals doing this mistake, so now you're learning a very important tip. Make sure to select save, and you're gonna go ahead and save whatever you want, and I'm gonna place it just on my desktop so it's easy to find. And then once you go and find your pattern, you will see that you do not have any of these lines. Let's see where we can find it here. It looks like it saved the entire artboard. I should have selected just whatever I needed. But as you can see, there are no lines in between. The pattern is absolutely seamless, no matter if you're looking at the one that has you know, the color background or the transparent one is perfect, and no line display. So that's the best way for you to export your pattern. And I cannot believe that unfortunately it's already time to say goodbye. I hope that these tips to create seamless pattern were useful for you, so you can create maybe your own pattern for your own t-shirt or for your own dress like I did for mine. You can always find more help and share your work in our lovely community, which is the Discord community. I'm just gonna probably have few seconds to show you back on the web here, the community. If you head under the challenge in Illustrator, you will see that we have many other challenges that we worked on so far, and you can post your work in order to have some feedback and of course interact with this wonderful community at Adobe Live. I look forward to see you soon. Go and grab a glass of water and come back, because the fun never stops at Adobe Live and on Behance. I look forward to see you very soon with a brand new challenge in Illustrator. But bye bye for now, everybody.